Goa was quite backward in those days. There were hardly any roads. There was probably one bus that went to the capital city of Panjim in the morning, and the same bus came back in the evening. So it was very, very undeveloped. And there were hardly any restaurants. There were no bikes. There were no cars. If you were rich, you had a bicycle, really. It was in this scenario that he thought, let's start a westernized restaurant in Goa.
Happy dreadlock sound. All you little sound boy.
The hippie subculture began its journey as a youth movement in the United States during the early 1960s and then spread around the world. By late 1970, pretty much every hippie in the world reveling in drugs, music, realized that the ultimate destination to find eternal peace is India. Banaras and Goa emerged as the two favorite spots for them. In 1971, Tito D'Souza came to Goa from East Africa and decided to start a small shack serving these hippies food and drinks. With his popularity came more tourists from across the world. With more foreigners coming, it revolutionized tourism in Goa.
What happened at that time, I think there was a revolt in Africa. I think somewhere in 64, 65 he came back to Goa. And in 69, they decide to open a restaurant.
Okay.
But our licensing dates back to 1971. So basically what he did was he came back here and he sold his ancestral home for, at that time, 12,000 rupees. It was actually called Rich Davy at that time, which is Ricardo, my brother, and David. So, but the board had, Rich Davy and Tito's place in brackets.
Father was actually in the army, so when he returned to Goa, he found it very difficult to come to a place where nobody spoke English or nobody had access to modern amenities. So he and a few friends got together, came up with this idea, found a few places which they liked, and then eventually saw this beautiful place on the beach in Goa, on BAGA beach, and set up a tiny restaurant there, 4 tables.
It was more like a meeting point early on. In fact, some of the books that we have seen, we had a book which people used to write on, it was called the Visitor's Book. And on that, even I've seen people saying, oh, traveling around India, finally, paradise, Titos, and it was mostly westernized food. But then we had a lot of also people from Bombay, the who's who of society who used to come down, because it was a getaway from your life in Bombay at that time, which was, and you come out here and you have this beach, beautiful, bang on the beach. It was probably the only restaurant around at that time, and it was more like a chill out as well as a very hedonistic lifestyle for them. Right. That's my brother's idea, to put it everywhere on every wall, and I think it gives you a little bit of a sense of, Titos is everywhere. So somebody always wants to find out what is Titos.
Well, the tourists that came in the 1970s and 1980s were quite different. They didn't really have that much money to spend. They mingled with the locals to a certain extent. They brought new ideas, new ways of living. The Indian tourists who started coming in the, I think, late 80s were young kids who wanted to experience freedom. They wanted to get away from their parents, they wanted to get away from society norms. I absolutely love them because in a way the Indian tourists were also a window to the rest of India for us.
From the time when owning a cycle was a luxury to being one of the greatest tourist destinations in the world, Goa has indeed come a very, very long way. Where not only Indians but people from across the world flock to revel on the beaches of Goa and enjoy its food, culture and party night spots. Henry Tito, like many others, should definitely be credited for this experience called Goa.